Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to the Genshin Impact video, and we're back now after having completed the Moonlight Merriment event and gotten ourselves a Refinement 5 Luxurious Sea Lord, and we're here to look at the weapon, analyze all the numbers, see what it does with a specific character, unchanging character, only really going to be looking at the weapon and what it provides, going to be looking at how it works, specific numbers and whatnot, and then also near the end of the video we're going to be doing a bit of damage testing on two different bosses, changing the weapon from the Luxurious Sea Lord, comparing it to the prototype Archaic, which is another 4-star, easy to access 4-star weapon, free to play, all that good stuff, as well as comparing it to another free to play weapon, also 4-star, at Refinement 5, which is the Star Silver weapon from Dragonspine. All pretty easy to obtain if you've been playing from the start of the game or from the launch. If you're new to the game, obviously prototype Archaic might be a bit harder to get because it's RNG based, but nevertheless these are free to play potential weapons, and we're going to compare all of these at Refinement 5 to see the difference in damage and to see which one works better. Now obviously because I'm only doing this with Eula, I will admit that one of the weapons is a bit more tailored to her playstyle, but nevertheless I do feel that this is going to provide a moderately accurate kind of a scale or kind of list, rating, ranking, whatever you want to call it, of which weapon is better for the most part. Obviously down to the fine stuff it might be a bit more skewed, but for the general stuff it will be a pretty decent ranking. So without further ado, and with all that being explained, let's just jump into the numbers and the explaining. Alright, so first of all, before I explain the weapons, I'm going to tell you guys about the team composition that I'm going to be using, because it's going to be in reference to a lot of the numbers that I'll be explaining. So our test character for this is Eula, and she's the only person I'm testing with because she's the only character I have that's a Claymore user at level 90. The artifacts and the team composition will stay the same for this whole video, and the team will be Eula, Ayaka, Barbara, and Yanfei. The artifacts on Eula are as follows. Eula's crit rate is sitting at a steady 54.4%, but that will be boosted by 15% due to the Cryo Resonance, just to increase a bit of a consistency, and her crit damage is sitting at a solid 168.4 crit damage. Alright, so moving on to explaining the Luxurious Sea Lord, the weapon has a base attack of 454, which is actually quite low compared to the other two. I think it's about 100 attack lower, but it makes up for that with a solid 55.1% attack bonus as the little substat there. This puts Eula's total attack at 2,526, which is a fairly high number, pretty solid. And the ability for this weapon is a plain 24% elemental burst damage increase, obviously at Refinement 5. And the second part of the weapon's ability is that it does a massive 200% of your attack as damage when you hit an opponent with your elemental burst. So for Eula, she'll be doing around the 5,000 to 6,000 damage per elemental burst. Now weirdly enough, this hit with the Titanic Tuner cannot crit. I did a bit of testing and it always did 5,800-ish. I think it was 5,880 every single time. Also, when I was testing the other two weapons, their on-hit effect could crit higher or low, or like rather, if it did crit, it went higher than normal, and if it didn't crit, it was very low. So that was very interesting to know that the Luxurious Sea Lord can't actually crit. And in terms of accessibility for the Luxurious Sea Lord, it is pretty easy to get right now if you're watching the video as of the release, or making, or within a few days of the release of this video. Jump into Genshin Impact, grab the weapon. It's very simple. I've got guides on it on my channel, guiding you guys through to getting all the charms and chests that you need to get, as well as the enemy camps that you have to like siege and peruse through, or whatever the hell that actual thing is. But I do have guides on it, and I highly recommend you guys jump in and get the Refinement 5s because it is a very strong free-to-play weapon. Okay, now moving on to the second weapon we're going to be comparing the Luxurious Sea Lord to is the Star Silver, which you get from Dragonspine. This weapon has a base attack of 565, so it's pretty much 100 extra on top of the Sea Lord, but this weapon does have 34.5% physical damage bonus, and this puts Eula's total attack at 2,320, and her physical damage bonus at about the 60-ish mark to 55 mark. The ability for this weapon, it will drop an Everfrost Icicle when you hit an opponent with a normal charge attack, and this deals about 140% of attack damage in an AoE, or 360% of attack damage if the enemy is affected by cryo or frozen targets. When not affected by cryo, it deals roughly 3,248 damage, and if they are affected by cryo, the damage is around the 8,352 mark. But I do believe that this ability is affected by crit rate and crit damage, so it can do more than the numbers I've shown you. This is also the weapon that is more tailored to Eula's kind of whole playstyle, seeing as Eula is a cryo character, so getting that cryo effect on the enemies and getting that massive proc from the actual ability is a lot easier than other characters. As well as the weapon has with the substat being physical damage bonus, and Eula is a physical damage character. So this is the one weapon that I've kind of got a skeptical kind of look on and can kind of, weigh the scales in a different way, but I still thought of using it because it is one of the easier and stronger to get weapons that are free to play at Refinement 5, so we're going to keep it in here. And the third weapon we're looking at is the Prototype Archaic, which has been in the game since the release, and this one has a base attack of 565 with a 27.6% attack bonus. This puts Eula's total attack at a solid 2,570, slightly above the Luxurious Sea Lord, which was at 2,526. And the ability for this weapon is also very much identical to the Luxurious Sea Lord, where it does a chunk of damage based on your attack percent, and for the Archaic it is a total of 480% of attack damage. So in theory, it should hit for around the 12.3k mark, which is a pretty solid amount of damage. But as well, this ability seems to be affected by crit rate and damage, so it can do a lot more than that. Going into now looking at the weapons per boss, we're looking at the Pyroregisvine. The left is Luxurious, middle is Archaic, and the right is the Star Silver. And for this example, the Star Silver is the king with the Prototype Archaic following close behind, and then at the end is the Luxurious Sea Lord. But that, I will clarify that that is a bad example because I didn't actually record the Luxurious Sea Lord landing a crit with Eula's Elemental Burst pop, so bear that in mind that it probably would have died with the Archaic if it had crit. And now moving over to the Primogea Vishap. This one was a bit of a painful one and, very long. But the general summary is that the Star Silver weapon does win, and it's a moderate tie between the Prototype Archaic and the Luxurious Sea Lord. The reason the Archaic wins by just a small bit is because of the bigger frequency of his proc from the actual weapon ability than the Luxurious Sea Lord's, and the bigger strength from the proc. And so that's the real reason that the Prototype Archaic does come out ahead. But overall, the Star Glitter wins. Second is Archaic Prototype, and the Luxurious Sea Lord does come in the end this time. Now, if you guys don't want to see the full fight, then there's a time on the stream right now to go skip it. If you don't want to watch like a 2-minute fight, then by all means go ahead and do that. But that's it for this one. Enjoy the fight. Okay, so with all this stuff now, what is the verdict? What am I going to be you know, what does this all mean? What is the final answer? What is the conclusion of this whole video now that we've looked at the boss fights, we've looked at the statistics behind the weapon, we've looked at everything? What is the answer? And the answer is that the Luxurious Sea Lord is a very strong weapon. Now, I do take it upon myself that I didn't have many characters, or rather I didn't have more than one character at level 90 to test out the variety of characters you can put this on, but bear this in mind that the weapon can be pretty much put on any damage dealer or any kind of character that scales off of attack and attack percent, seeing as the weapon does provide 55 attack percent, which is quite a lot. So if you want to heal with Sayu, then by all means chuck this on a Sayu, and her healing will be very big, seeing as she'll have a lot more attack, which she scales off of. In terms of damage, the weapon is quite underwhelming though. I will say that the Titanic Tuner attack is just kind of a mediocre, archaic prototype proc. It is substantially less damage comparatively. The Titanic Tuner is 200% damage, whilst the archaic prototype is 480%, so it's about 300% short of even being comparable. In terms of its proc rate, it has to proc on every single elemental burst hit, and it has a 15-second cooldown. And from my knowledge of the Claymore users in the game, there's not a single one that you can proc the Titanic Tuner twice in a single elemental burst. So it's pretty much one proc per elemental burst, pretty much boosting your overall elemental burst damage, which is overall not something that is amazing when it's such a low amount of damage. 200% of attack is usually about the 5,000 mark, whilst the prototype Archaic usually does about around the 11 to 15k mark, depending on which character you're using. If you can get up to 3k attack, then by all means you'll be hitting that 12 to 15k. So overall, if you are able to get the prototype Archaic, then it's going to be a better weapon, but by all means do jump in and get the Luxurious Sea Lord. Aesthetically, it is a better weapon, and it also does provide that 24% elemental burst damage, which I didn't really notice. Overall, it just didn't feel like it was actually a thing, but I guess with a character built better, maybe D-Luke, characters like that, Razor overall could have a higher damage increase. But personally, I don't feel like it's that much more of a phenomenal weapon than the prototype Archaic. And I'm not going to really talk about the Star Silver, seeing as that weapon is more catered to Eula's playstyle. But in terms of general use, if you really want a solid general use weapon, definitely get the Luxurious Sea Lord. But I think for specific tasks and specific things, it doesn't really shine. That's my final verdict. Obviously, take this however you want. You might think that my ranking system is flawed. I did a few things wrong. I didn't, get specific damage numbers to be consistent, and then that might be true. But I thought I'd just make a video, showing a bit of the damage that you can do with a character, just changing weapons, seeing the consistency, seeing what happens, and overall, my opinion is that it's just another good 4-star weapon. Not the best, but it's a good one. So by all means, check out the other videos that I've put up on getting it if you do want to get it. Don't check them out if you don't want to get it. It's really up to you. Don't really care. But anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button and also consider subscribing to the channel. Also ring that notification bell to stay notified of when I upload next. Have an amazing day, guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.